The trendy genre in video games for the last 20 years or so has been Metroidvanias. It's a term coined for two-dimensional exploration games, first made popular by Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo and Castlevania Symphony of the Night on the PlayStation. But each new release in the genre seems to be a big deal for fans, or praised to no end by the gaming media as indie darlings. It's rare for one to slip under the radar, but when something comes out for the Atari Jaguar, well, it usually goes unnoticed for the wider gaming community. But Asteroite is in fact the first and currently only Metroidvania for the Jaguar, at least that I know of, and is attempting to bring a beefier adventure to the console. So is Asteroite a treat for our favorite kitty cat of a console? Or is it more like a hairball that's going to be spit out of the cartridge port quickly? That was a weird way to word it, but let's find out anyway. Asteroite was released by SongBird Productions in early 2022 and was developed by Phobos and Krauser Productions. It was highly anticipated on the AtariAge forums, as there was a fairly large thread containing notes and updates on its development leading right up to its release. As I stated before, Asteroid is a Metroidvania game, but it definitely leans more towards Metroid than Castlevania, which is cool because I feel most games lean the opposite direction. When you power the game on, you are given a sort of mission briefing and dropped on an alien planet to begin your journey. And this is really the only story you're given, outside of a few throwaway lines here and there, but trust me when I say that those are very infrequent. But we don't need a long, in-depth story to have fun, and besides, that's what the game manual is for. And this game comes with a nice Jaguar-style box and a full-color manual. Why don't modern games come with these anymore? Well anyway, back to the game. When you start, I couldn't help but to feel that the main character was very stiff in his jumping and movement. You can shoot in 8 directions, including straight down when jumping in the air, which is nice, but overall, he just doesn't feel very agile. You are dumped into this wide area and should soon stumble upon the Morph Powerball and the map, which reaffirms this game's Metroid influences. So much so that this whole thing almost feels like the dollar store version of Zebus and Samus. I really wish the game could have taken inspiration from Metroid without feeling like a direct copy. But still, what's here isn't bad, and things improve greatly as you explore the wider planet and its facilities. There are a nice variety of environments to explore, from the grassy floors and purple hues of the overworld, to the ice area, the sewers, a place that feels like an old forge, a sort of lab, a fire pit, and a few others. They're all distinct and have their own feel and flow. While the background graphics aren't up to the quality of, say, Rayman or Gravitic Mines, I still enjoyed them, and there was plenty to look at and take in. Exploration is key to games like this, and I did have fun exploring this alien planet. But I feel like I broke the sequence my first time, and I didn't even intend to do so. But the game does encourage open exploration with its many rooms and corridors, so I hope they intended there to be different paths to victory. There is a distinct difference in all the enemies you'll encounter. Some fall into the category of being no threat at all. They simply crawl around and exist to be killed. They don't drop any pickups or anything, which we'll get into more in a bit, so their existence seems to be just that of a minor nuisance. Then you have enemies who are larger and tend to put up much more of a resistance. They lunge at you, shoot back, and have various attacks and defenses. These are much more satisfying to fight and dispatch, although most still feel like they can be cheesed, simply by keeping your distance. While the exploration is overall satisfying, I feel that the combat never really becomes very fun or challenging until the latter part of the game, but by then, you're so powered up that it doesn't really matter. Speaking of the power-ups, there are plenty, but none of them have that wow factor that I felt in the original Metroid. I remember picking up the Ice Beam for the first time in that game, or the power-up to kill enemies with your somersault and being floored by how different the game felt afterwards. In Asteroid, you get power-ups like the previously mentioned Morph Ball, an upgraded suit that allows you to touch liquids, missiles, increased health, a tri-shot, bombs for your Morph Ball, a bullet that breaks certain bricks, higher jumps, and so forth. I did get excited for the tri-shot, which is the famous spread shot from Contra, but the rest felt kind of expected and ho-hum. I really wish they added more upgrades with a wider effect on the game. It all just felt very safe and, if I'm honest, boring. But there's one part of Asteroid that stood out in an excellent way, and that's the many boss battles. Bosses are a big part of this game, and encountering and fighting them was incredibly challenging and rewarding. Each has a pattern and weakness for you to identify, but some are more obvious than others. The earlier bosses definitely felt more challenging to me, but make no mistake, all of them were fun to do battle with. I especially enjoyed the larger ones, who used the environment to their advantage. It made me wish that this much love and care was put into more of the standard enemies, because these boss battles rock, and are the highlight of the game for me. I also found it interesting that all health and missile pickups were essentially left in the hands of one enemy, and that's the facehugger type enemy that hatches from eggs around the planet. You have to wait for one to hatch by approaching the egg, and then shoot it to get either a medkit or a missile refill. And while it's a unique idea, it was also a little annoying. You end up running around the game with little to no health until you come across these eggs, and then farm them for a while and move on. And in some parts of the planet, these eggs are rare. It makes you play in an injured state far too often, and you have to be overly cautious not to die. You do have various save rooms around the planet, but they don't refill your health. So if you save far away from some of the eggs, with very little health, then you might have just screwed yourself for a while. And I get what they were going for, but having a few other of the simple enemies drop health once in a while wouldn't have hurt the game at all. In my honest opinion, it would have helped. The enemy designs are all pretty good, as far as the sprites go, and each area definitely has its own feel in the enemy types. Initially, you face what feels like a lot of wildlife, and then you encounter rats and sludge monsters in the sewers, robot workers and guards in the forage area, and soldiers and drones in the labs. It all makes sense, and I really like the enemy sprites. The player sprite didn't do too much for me initially, but I like the color palette of the second suit better, and he animates well when running down the corridors. Overall, I didn't think Asteroite looked bad. I actually enjoyed most of it. But I know some people will look at this game and feel like it does nothing to push the Jaguar. And I don't know why that is a requirement. People seem obsessed with this idea that new homebrew and games need to justify that original 64-bit claim, and really push the console beyond anything seen before. And I guess I understand this line of thinking to an extent, but I'd rather have really good games and software of all types that don't necessarily focus on this whole pushing the limits of the console thing. Anyway, sorry for that tangent. I'll get down from my soapbox now, and talk about the sound. The sound is mostly really good. The music has this appropriate otherworldly feel to it, and it even has some religious undertones in certain areas. They even have a rewarding tune play when you find new power-ups, which adds to the feeling of the accomplishment. The sound effects are all pretty good too. My only complaint is that a few of the sound effects are really subdued, and some of the music is a bit harsh on the ears at times. But overall, I enjoyed the audio, and it helped with the world building and experience of Asteroite. And I have to say that Asteroite isn't a bad package. It runs $80 plus shipping over at SongBird Productions, and while that seems a little steep, I think most Jaguar owners understand and have accepted that these games are, well, expensive. Most Jaguar homebrews don't sell a ton of copies, because there aren't that many people who own and play the Jaguar. Plus, they're expensive to make. You have to acquire and make the shell along with the circuit boards and chips, and none of these are too common to my understanding. Your $80 get you somewhere around 5 to 7 hours of gameplay on the first playthrough, and you might be motivated to get 100% completion or speedrun after that, but I wasn't motivated to play through more than twice. But that's just me. Anyway, let's take Asteroite and double jump on over to the Atari Network pros and cons section to see if it's a game worth picking up or not. For the pros, it is nice having a long adventure on the Jaguar, and Metroidvania is a genre that seems tailor-made for this system. There is a large planet to explore here, and each new area feels like it has a purpose. It's all connected in smart ways, too. You have a lot of power-ups to find and collect, and the boss battles are a ton of fun. Even some of the basic enemies can be challenging at times. The enemy sprites look good, the backgrounds have some nice detail, and the music is really well done in most places. And it has a good length at about 5 to 7 hours for the first playthrough. But for the cons, we have to bring up that the player character feels stiff, at least initially. Some power-ups will help with this, but those power-ups lack the wow factor from other games in the genre. Some of the sound effects are pretty subdued, which I guess might be considered a nitpick, but it detracts from the experience. Medpacks can also be far and few in between, which makes you run around overly cautious at times. If I'm honest, everything feels like it's lacking polish. It's good, but rough around the edges, if you know what I mean. So with all that said, I'm confident in giving Asteroite for the Atari Jaguar 3 Jag controllers out of 5. It's good, and a game that many Jaguar fans will want to experience, but it's lacking overall polish. The characters could have used more animations, more power-ups with some fun effects on the exploration and combat, and enemies with more challenge. There needed to be improvements over the medpack system, increased volume on certain sound effects, and more. This all adds up to an experience that is good, but could have been great. Still, as it is, I found Asteroite to be a fun experience with excellent boss battles and fun exploration. If you like the genre, or Metroid games, then I think Asteroite will be a fun distraction for you. But if you're looking for an awesome console-pushing experience that proves the Jaguar is 64-bit, well, then look elsewhere. Your desired game is in another cartridge. But now I want to hear from all of you. What do you think of Asteroite? And the whole Metroidvania genre, for that matter. Is this game and others like it something you enjoy playing? And if so, why? Also, have you grabbed any other games from SongBird Productions? I think they have some awesome Jaguar releases, but they all feel really pricey. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know about all this and more in the comments down below. And be sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't. I put out 2 videos every week, so hit that bell icon to be notified whenever I upload. And join us for the Manverse 7800 live stream every other Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific. It's like Saturday morning cartoons, except you're watching a fat middle-aged man play Atari. I'd also like to take this time to thank the following classy Atarians for supporting the Atari network. Thanks to them, I'm able to continue acquiring new equipment and things to review for the channel. So thank you to Jeremiah Thomas, Mr. Shua TV, Ben's the Spook, Socrates63, Bowl Gobbler, Jolt 7800, Head Trauma Bob, OG Hugo, and my own Celestial. You guys rock. Okay guys, with all that said, it's time we head back to our home planet. I'm the 7800 Pro Gamer, a planet-hopping bounty hunter who ends up actually being a woman at the end of the game, here at the Atari Network, and I'd like to thank you for watching. And remember to stay classy, Atarians.